Hi. Just a few movies between the last report and this one. Cat's Eye, Stephen King's Cat's Eye, I guess, and The Witches, the Angelica Houston version of The Witches. Cat's Eye first. Pretty typical Stephen King movie. Uh, it was interesting. I found myself wanting to read the stories. I was intrigued. Uh, Most of what I consider Stephen King movies, not necessarily what's being done now, but like the older stuff has that feel of 70s, 80s, 90s, and this was must have been 80s or 90s because Drew Barrymore is throughout, and it follows a cat that finds itself involved in all of these stories, and I don't know if that's how it works in book form. One day I'll find out. But it's interesting. There's one about this guy who um, he wants to quit smoking, so he uh, employs this company. I guess they're called Quitters Incorporated or something like that, and they use very uh, brutal tactics to help him quit smoking. I think it works, but at what cost? That was interesting. I'm told that it's even more sadistic in the book, which is, I'm told by the malevolent supernatural force I live with, who is the Stephen King expert, and that more sadistic in the book is probably a pretty fair assessment of any Stephen King movie. Um, there's one, and throughout we're kind of seeing a ghost of Drew Barrymore alongside uh, first a doll and then a character on TV, and the ghost is talking to the cat. And then in the last one, Drew Barrymore plays an actual character. In the story, it's her story, and the cat's story. But the one in between is this guy who uh, tortures psychologically and physically the guy who's having an affair with his wife, and I guess he's a very rich guy. I think he's mafia or something. I don't know. I wasn't as engaged by this movie. But ultimately, what it comes down to is the guy says, either I can make I can make you suffer, or you can try to prove yourself by walking along the weird ledge all around the top of this building that I live in. And it's not just walking around the ledge; it's walking around the ledge while a rich guy is being distracting. Um, I don't recall the ending of that one, although I probably wouldn't say how it ended if I did. And the last one was Drew Barrymore's little girl. There's some kind of monster that keeps coming out of her wall and attacking her in the night, a little monster, and her parents blame the cat, or her mom at least does, and tries to get rid of the cat, but the cat escapes, finds its way back just in time to rescue Drew Barrymore from the monster. Um, so there's that, Cat's Eye. Um, and yeah, the cat figures into the plots of all three, but is a major character in the third one. And so The Witches, the original movie adaptation of Roald Dahl's The Witches, again, I'm told by the same malevolent supernatural force that the book is more sadistic, and Roald Dahl could be sadistic, as cute as his reputation is, from his name to his characters and the stories. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, James and the Giant Peach, they seem like cute stories, but they get pretty dark. And last year, or whenever it came out, we watched the new Anne Hathaway Octavia Spencer version and appreciated it, and that was apparently truer to the ending of the book. I'm not going to say what that ending was, but that movie's truer to the ending of the book. This movie has a different, I guess they supposed, more crowd-pleasing ending. And I'm going to say that I probably liked this version better. I think I'd seen it before. I'm pretty sure I'd seen it before. Still haven't read the book. I'm told I have to. But just mostly for the practical effects aspect. When Angelica Houston takes off Angelica Houston's face, and most of the witches they just take off they take off wigs and they're bald and they have little blemishes around. But she's an all-out I want to say Jim Henson creation. Like she's wearing creation. She's wearing a giant puppet, not a mask, not prosthetics. It looks like a giant puppet that she is wearing and activating with her mouth. And that's the only time we see it is in one scene, but it's really cool. But then there's other puppets throughout. The gist of it is all these witches want to rid the world of children by turning all the children into mice, and because children smell awful, and mice don't. I guess I'm catching a lot of mice these days. I can tell you, children smell better, but and they want to do this by feeding them chocolate. So they turn a couple of kids into mice early on, and then the mice have to convince the adults, we're actually children, and we need your help to get unmoused. And the adults have different reactions. But the mice are, some of it's actual mice. Some of it might have been rats. They looked too big to be mice. But then some of them are puppet mice for when they have to talk. And I said to the malevolent supernatural force I live with at the time, I love knowing that each of those mice, the movie makes them look the size of mice, but I know from knowing about, and I'm guessing, but it's like Bill Maher says, I don't know it for a fact, I just know that it's true that each of those mouse puppets is actually the size of a small dog, and it's the magic of movies that makes them look small. So it's a very simple story, very simple witch tale, witches versus children, but the difference between it and the Anne Hathaway version, which I did enjoy because I love Anne Hathaway, I love Octavia Spencer, but the difference is, it's kind of like I talked about the difference between the two Great Gatsbys. The sense that I know for a fact there's something physically there doing stuff on the screen rather than it was added later, which is what a lot of it feels like with a lot of movies these days, but that version of The Witches in particular. I love the idea that I know that those puppets are the size of small dogs, but that they look like they're the size of a mouse. And it's not because I don't want to call CGI cheating, but it's just that appeals more to me aesthetically. Even if they looked less like real mice than the CGI creations, they were there. I could almost feel them. So that's those two. I don't know, other than the Are You Afraid of the Darks, what's coming up the next couple of days. Hopefully a Christopher Lee Dracula will be among them. I don't know how many even there will be because we're going to spend much of Saturday in Sleepy Hollow. Sleepy Hollow. So, and I'm about to record another video where I will be talking about the Sleepy Hollow episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark? So I'm going to go do that, and you can probably, if anybody's watching this at this point, you can probably go watch it, but not in one of these boxes. Happy viewing.